Hi artists! Today we are going to continue learning about shading and value. And last week we worked on value scales going from light to dark in a rectangular set of squares or rectangles and practicing our shading. Today we're going to work on doing it with spheres and cylinders. Now right now what I have in front of me is a page full of circles and lines. It is not spheres or cylinders. The shading, the value, is going to make that happen. So if you are learning remotely or you are asynchronous today, you might not have this paper. You might, because if you are going to school, I asked your teacher to give it to you. But if you don't have it, you're absent or something, or you're remote, you can easily make this. All you have to do is take a blank piece of paper, and it doesn't matter if it already has lines on it, then part of that's done for you. Draw some circles. Make sure they are not teeny tiny. All around your page. I would say you want, I don't know, 7 or 8 circles, different size. And you can tell these are not perfect circles, not by any stretch. If you want to trace something, you can, but you can just freehand them too. I've got 7 there. My page is pretty filled up. Now you're going to draw vertical lines. Those are lines up and down. I'm going to use a ruler because I like them to be straight. And I'm just going to line up my ruler. Hey, if you don't have a ruler, use the edge of a piece of paper or draw them freehand. That doesn't really matter too much. But my point is, you can very easily do this for yourself if you don't have the paper. Right, so I just drew that across, drew circles, drew lines, and now I'm ready. I have the same exact thing as this printed paper. So we're going to use crayons or colored pencils. It doesn't matter which. Markers will not work for this. We need crayons or colored pencils. It makes no difference if you start with the circles or you start with the cylinders. I like to call them tubes because I think they look like tubes when they're done. When you are shading, there are 2 different ways to do it. You can color the whole thing one value if you want. However, I don't do it that way. I work like a value scale going from dark to light, outside to in. What's important though, when you are shading a circle, trying to make it look like a sphere, what's important is that you are coloring the shape or the direction of the shape. I was going to say the shape of the shape, but that doesn't really make sense. I am coloring around, and I am getting lighter as I go. And I am going to keep going around until I get to this one really light spot in the middle. And then I'm going to push a little bit more around that edge. Now, artists, I'm going to tell you, this is not something that's just easy. It's a challenge. But the more you do it, the better you get. What I find typically happens with kids your age is that their first circle is okay, and they get better as they go. So this, you can see a dark value and a light value, but there's no mediums. It doesn't blend. So now I want some mediums here. And again, I'm using all the same crayon. And now I'm getting lighter. And I'm going to keep it really light in the middle. But this is not even close to being my darkest. So I'm going to go a little bit darker again. The key, again, is coloring roundly. I don't know if that's a word. Is roundly a word? I'm not sure. Excuse me. but curved coloring because it's a curved item. And now it's the darkest by the edge. And I'm pushing very hard out here now. And it gets lighter as you go in. When you back off of this a little bit, it should look more like a sphere. It should start to look round for you. Now, as you do this, as you go across your page, you can choose different colors. If you want to make them all the same color, by all means, make them all the same color. I'm gonna go up here. I always like to vary my colors, but you're gonna do all of them. And it's gonna take you some time. Absolutely 100%. I'm gonna speed this up so you can watch me do this one. So now you can see I have my green one finished as well. One thing that I would like you to notice, the brightest point, the highlight, the lightest value in my sphere is kind of in the same spot on both of these. You want to make them in the same spot so it makes sense. The light is coming from here and hitting those two spheres in the same spot. So it's darkest over here. I'm going to pause this now and give you some time to work on your spheres. I've got most of my spheres done. I still have a few more over here, but as you can tell, they really start to look dimensional, look like they are spheres instead of circles. Hopefully you can see a big difference between this one and this one. They're about the same size. So let's talk about the cylinders or the tubes. Now, I like to do these like every other one. You could do every single one as a tube. That would work just fine. But I like to do every other one. These are similar, but because they're straight, you're going to be coloring up and down. And again, you're going to start really, really light. And the outside edges are the darkest. And it gets light as you go in. So, out here, now this pink is not the best color to start with. I should have started with a darker color. But I'm just gonna get lighter and I'm just letting up on the pressure as I go in. And I find where the lightest spot is. Oops, crack my table. And again, I'm gonna go a little off center for that. Make the lightest spot kind of right here. And you want it to be the same all the way down. When you are coloring these, it's easy to make them look striped. You don't want them to be striped. You want that blended in. You want that lightest to look like a strip in the middle, but not a stripe that has solid edges. And again, I apologize, I picked a bad color to start with. Let's do my next one. Let's do a darker color. Yeah, this will work better. So I'm gonna come over here because I don't want to put purple by purple. So I did this tube, I would do this tube, now I'm gonna come over here. And again, I like to color the whole thing first, just to get some color down and then start my shading. That's up to you. Maybe you don't like to do it like that. but I just get lighter as I go in. And I'm very dark by the edges. But this is not shading because this is dark and light. Again, no medium. You want to blend that. You want an entire value scale in each cylinder, in each sphere. Going from darkest darks to lightest lights, all in the same form. And what it will do is start to make them look kind of round. Just like it did the spheres, it'll make them look like they're curving around. Again, artists, please understand, I have been doing this for so many years. I learned about shading when I was very young, just like you are learning about it. So if you think, oh my gosh, that looks so easy, and then you try it and it's not, well, that's just because you're learning. Don't panic about that. It's not something that's just naturally easy. And it's something that some of you will be really, really great at. Some of you will be not so great at, just like everything else. Not everybody is great at shading, but everybody can do it, for sure. Let's see, what would be a good color for in there? Now, you may notice that I haven't used yellow. Well, that's because yellow doesn't work very well because it's hard to get yellow dark. This is one that will work very well because we know we can get black dark. Start with light and go darker. This is really important when it comes to shading. When you're doing shading with color, you cannot get lighter. You can't erase crayon. You can kind of erase colored pencil, but not great. So it is important to start light. You can always go darker. Press a little harder, add in a little bit more layering. You can always go darker, but it is almost impossible to go lighter. So start light. You've got to start perfecting that light touch, whether it be with a pencil or a crayon. You've got to start perfecting that if you want to learn shading, because that's really the key. This black works really well. Highly recommend black. And I said this before, you could make them all the same color if you want. Ooh, I'm getting a little messy. This is what happens when you work on it a long time at once without taking any little breaks. Sometimes you start to get sloppy, and I'm trying to rush so you don't have to watch me forever. But man, this black works good, because you can get it nice and dark. Okay, I'm gonna keep going on my tubes. I'm gonna speed this up. You keep working on yours as well. So I've got mine all finished. And I just wanted to show you one last thing. It is possible to add in some other colors, like add in a little bit of black with my gray to make it just a little darker by the edge. If you have a color that doesn't get dark, there might be a darker version of it that could help you. Like this green right here, I couldn't get it very dark. So maybe I can put in some regular green just to darken up that edge. I'm not putting in a totally different color. I shouldn't have said that. I'm putting in a darker version of the same color. So there's a blue that's called Bluetiful. Let me find it. Of course I'm not gonna be able to find it now. Bluetiful, there it is. Which is a really, really dark blue. So maybe I could put that in with some of my other blues. This is a blue purple, but that Bluetiful darkens the edges, and that's another way to make it darker by the very edge if you want. This is a real light orange, so maybe I could put in some red orange to get that very edge a little darker. So I want you to finish this up, and you will turn this in. If you are remote, obviously, you will not be turning it in. But this is great, great practice. And anytime you want to practice more shading, start with a circle. Because if you can get a circle to look like a sphere, you can truly shade anything.